It's Taylor Alleman's history time. It's Taylor Alleman, he's so fine. Taylor Alleman's history time. He's doing cool stuff like playing pool. History time.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't see you there. My name is Taylor Alleman, and I'd like to take you on a journey through the interesting world of the Opium Wars. Let's go.
Many historians believe the Opium Wars to be one of the first true world wars. But to this I have to reply, I know you are, but what am I? Before we can analyze the reasons for war between China and Britain, we must understand the economic and social policies which led to this eruption of violence. You see, at this time, India was controlled by the British East India Company, a company which created and sold many things, including cotton and opium. The sale and smuggling of illegal opium into the country of China was very profitable for the English. But it was not good for the Chinese at all. It caused addiction to run rampant in their streets. And so, the Chinese government acted. As you can see, this is China. And as you can tell, China's a pretty big place. And in such a big place like this, there's much population, and drugs can run rampant. This is England. England was an immense power at the time, but they were not content to simply stay in England, and thus they invaded India. And the English were like, pshoo, 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 and the Indians were like, brah, brah. And then the English were like, blah, 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 and the cavalry. And thus, the British East India Company took over India and started the opium trade. With England in control of India and its opium, it started what is known as the opium trade. Popular to contrary belief, the Opium Wars would not be about the legalization of opium, rather about free trade. Prior to the Opium Wars, China had legalized the drug opium. It is a narcotic similar to heroin. Because of its addictive effects, the Chinese government illegalized it. But British merchants realized they could make a quick buck off selling opium to the addicted Chinese populace, and thus it sparked the Opium Wars. With pressure mounting between the two countries, the Chinese emperor elected a new commissioner of trade, a man by the name of Lin Zhu. Now Lin Zhu was a Neo-Confucianist, and he believed that China must be rid of the opium problem. So he demanded that all the English traders turn over their opium to him. He then dumped the opium into the river and executed many opium importers, which angered and aggravated the English government, which led to the eventual invasion of China.
The British invaded. First they took Hong Kong, and sailed further up the Yangtze River, laying siege to the city of Canton.
With pressure mounting on the Chinese emperor, he had no choice but to sign the Treaty of Nanjing. The Treaty of Nanjing stated that he must pay a tribute to the British power, as well as open 4 Chinese ports to open trade. This ends the first Opium War. I hope you enjoyed it.
Oh, hello again. I didn't see you there. You always seem to come in when I'm grooming. Oh well, I don't mind. I would now like to talk to you about the Second Opium War, a war with much more devastating and worldwide consequences. And you can come with me. Let's go.
14 years after the end of the First Opium Wars, and fighting once again erupted. This time it was caused by a much more minuscule event. The search and seizure of a British ship by Qing officials. The ship was dubbed the Arrow, and thus fighting broke out between the two sides. But this time it would be much more decisive and devastating loss for the Qing Empire. Look, now I'm wearing a football jersey. You never know what I'm going to do next. I'm crazy. Anyway, it is important to understand the situation that the world is in before we can dig apart and analyze the Second Opium War.
During the time leading up to the Second Opium War, the English had exclusive trading rights with the Chinese. But they weren't the only world power who wished to get a hold of Chinese goods. The French often wished for this. Haha, we are the French. Why cannot we have a trading rights? The French, wishing for trade rights, and seeing that the English invasion, realized that it was their opportunity to get theirs. So, they joined forces with the British, and together they launched a joint strike upon the Chinese. The joint force moved in and captured the large city of Canton. But that is not where they stopped. They captured several key forts leading up to the Chinese capital of Beijing. With the Chinese capital in danger, they had no choice. They had to surrender.
With French and English forces outside of Beijing and pressure upon the Qing Empire mounting, they had no choice. They had to give in. And thus they passed the Favored Nation Clause, which allowed free trade between all major world powers. They also gave 30,000 ounces of silver to the British, as well as 2 million ounces to the French. Also, they created 10 new port cities, which were open to both the French and the British. In conclusion, I hope you learned a great deal about the Opium Wars and about how it affects the English and the Chinese. And I hope that you enjoyed this.